The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on August 13th, 2024.
It's time now for Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And now, here's your host, the president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, Pam Toompop. Good morning, Pam. How are you doing this morning, Pam?
Hey, I'm great, Yuri. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. It's a nice overcast morning, so it's a little cooler today.
Well, we're grateful that it's a little cooler up country. It's been pretty warm, but when you look at what's happening with all of our folks who've moved to Las Vegas, I've had so many calls and people have said it's been 106, 110. So,
but it's a dry heat.
Yeah, and I'm not fond of that one.
Right. You still sweat.
That's right. That's true. Well, thank you for all that you do for the show, and welcome everybody to Business Matters. This morning, we are going to have a great conversation this morning with Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke. And, she was first on the scene when the wildfires happened, as our governor was out of state at that time. So we're going to speak with her and talk about some exciting programs that are underway. And then we're going to get to speak with Bob Fenton. Everybody knows Bob now, who is our regional administrator for FEMA Region 9, and talk to him about where we're at today. But let's begin with our Lieutenant Governor. Sylvia Luke is Hawaii's 16th Lieutenant Governor, the third woman to hold the office, and the highest-ranking Korean American in a U.S. statewide position. She previously served as a Hawaii state representative with over a decade as finance chair, which is an extremely prestigious position, an important position in our state legislature. Originally from Seoul, South Korea, Sylvia immigrated to Honolulu at the age of 9, attending K-12 public schools, and that formed some of her passions today. She holds degrees from the University of Hawaii at Manoa and the University of San Francisco School of Law. And as Lieutenant Governor, she leads Ready Keiki, the state's plan to increase available preschool seats for Hawaii's 3- and 4-year-olds, and Connect Kako, an initiative to expand access to high-speed, affordable internet. Sylvia is a mom, a dog mom, a wife, and an attorney. Good morning, Sylvia. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, it's always a great pleasure to have you on. Oh, excuse me. I can't seem to get that alarm off. There we go. Give us a reminder. You have had such an amazing background and really have been serving our state for such a long time and in key positions. I know that when something happens like a disaster, all of a sudden all hands are on deck. And for you, as our Lieutenant Governor, with the governor out of town, what was it like jumping in right away and leading when the wildfires occurred?
I remember that day, I woke up in the morning very early because we had severe windy conditions. And at that point in time, we were having reports of wildfires in the Kula area and also kind of the start of the wildfire in Lahaina. But at that point in time, it was around 5 a.m. in the morning. At that point in time, things were somewhat trying to be contained, and there were a couple of wildfires also on the Big Island. So I was supposed to leave for San Diego that day. And the Attorney General was out. Of course, the governor was out. So we were prepping the BNF director, Luis Oliveira, who is the fourth in line to take when people are out of town. But, I made that decision that morning. I know. So I made that decision that morning that I am not going to travel, and I cancel my trip. And because, regardless of what was going on, because of the severe wind condition, guaranteed there would be outages, guaranteed there would be impact. Yeah. So I made that decision. And, as the events unfolded and as it went out. And then we went into the evening, and then, everybody became aware of the devastation that was happening in Lahaina. I think earlier in the day, the Big Island fires had been contained, and even, at least on Maui, it seems like the concentration was in Lahaina. But, the thing that now it's been a year, and then we look back, and clearly there were lessons learned, things that we are going to take from and see if we can prevent something like this from happening in the future, and how are we going to be better prepared or better be able to communicate and just be ready at any given time. So just recently, a few weeks ago, Maui had significant wildfires, again, not to the significance of devastation from a year ago, but what I saw this go around was the Maui County and the EOC and the fire department. They were all working, and they were hyper aware, and they were working very proactively. And at the end, they were able to contain the Haleakala fire and the areas in Kula. And that was a good thing. And so I think that's what we have to do. Even our office, in this situation, we were, again, acting governor because the governor was out of town. And our office became even more proactive. And we flew out to Maui right away. And then in the meantime, there were wildfires in Kauai. So we flew out to Kauai just to provide support and just to reassure that the counties have the state support. And we flew out our large helicopters right away to douse some of the fires, and we worked in coordination with the mayor's office and the EOC. So you could tell, the seriousness and the attitude and, the proactive approach. You felt the confidence.
Yeah, we really did. And I will say that I had been in Honolulu that day, and one of my daughter's friends had lost her house up in Kula. So, we had been watching that and what was going on there. But flying home and seeing the wildfires from the plane coming around the West Maui, coming around the mountain from Oahu. And then right as we kind of came around the edge, you could actually see both going on simultaneously. Yeah. And it was really just frightening to watch and see, from all the way up in Kula to what was happening in West Maui. It was just beyond our expectations. And I know that, in my history, I said in the 40 plus years I've lived in Maui, we've never seen a hurricane without water. So to see the devastation from these high winds and something that none of us were really used to. It was just such an amazing and horrific thing to see and think, okay, now, what's it going to take to put this out? What are some of the things that, on this 1 year anniversary, what are some of the bright spots that come to mind of, through this tragedy, people really kind of came together. And what are some of the bright spots that you saw and maybe some of the quick lessons learned?
Yeah. Hands down, it was a compassion and aloha of our people. And so no matter what was going on, they did whatever they could to help out their neighbors, help out their friends, help out their family members, and help out strangers and just help out community people. And, I always point to an example. Representative Tyson Miyake took in an individual, and I talk about that story because that doesn't end there, because this individual was a hairstylist, and he lost everything. He basically came to Tyson's house, and he had just the clothes he was wearing. He left everything behind. He was ragged, and Tyson took him in. But this individual, what he did was, because he was a stylist, he decided to give free styling services to individuals who were impacted from the fire. But that was not a unique story. That was happening with people who lost everything, but they were helping out. They were doing everything they can. In fact, I met a person at the distribution center because, our office helped to at least stand up some of the parts of the distribution network. And I met this one individual. He lost everything as well, but he volunteered every day at the distribution center. And he said that was his way of finding comfort and peace. And he, at the same time, he was grateful that, he didn't lose somebody he loved and he was safe. And the fact that these type of stories come out in the middle of devastation and heartbreak and so much loss is just kind of a testament to the compassion and the good in people and the good in people on Maui.
Yeah. It was really amazing to me to see how the hubs, so quickly came together and being on, living in Pukalani, but also with our office in Wailuku, and, really being limited on trying to be respectful on who could go in because everything, they were saying we can't handle more people coming in. We really just need people coming in who are serving. So trying to find other ways to serve out and about and around the community on this side and help people was very interesting because it's the first time it was like, okay, we don't need more people rushing in because things aren't handled. And one of the things that people were shocked by that we were working on was we were hearing reports that at the just the shelters, even here on this side in Wailuku and Kahului, that the shelters had enough food, right, early on, and there wasn't refrigeration, so we just kind of needed to try and say, let's work on how we can time things and continue to bring food in, but time it in a way that it's just in time, because we were starting to get overwhelmed with some of the donations. And I remember a lot of the calls we'd get, people would be like, really? And I was like, it's not that it's not needed. It's just, we just hold off. Can we reschedule you for a little bit out? And I remember going with Director Isabel Guzman was in town, and I met her, Director of the SBA, and I met her and her team at the shelter. And I was trying to sign up for weekends, because during the workday I needed to be at work helping businesses in our community, and all the weekends were booked out for a month. And I was just so proud of our community that we had so many people coming together, and just everybody wanted to be a part of doing something to help.
Yeah, it really was the community. The community came together and they helped out wherever they can, and they set up the hubs and they set up the distribution, and some people set up in their neighborhood and they kukua'd as much as they can. So government itself cannot do all the things that are needed, and we were so grateful to the community members who just kind of, without even being asked or told, they just did it, and they just decided, hey, you know what, our neighbors need help, our friends need help, the community need help, Lahaina needs help, upcountry need help. We're going to do whatever we can. So it really shows the grace and compassion of people of Maui and people in the state. I mean, even on Oahu, we had distribution drives that were like miles long. People were just going and just donating stuff.
Yeah.
But, looking back, really credit to you as well, Pam, because, I know we worked together for the Kokua for Maui event, and you helped identify vendors and especially Lahaina businesses, and we were able to get sponsors to fly them to all the islands so that all the different islands can support Maui businesses. And I know you folks are continuing that effort as well. So, even paying attention to the small businesses, the mom and pop stores, all the kind of the front street businesses. If it wasn't for people like you and, the Lahaina Action Center, I think businesses would be lost as well because they need a place to go. They're suffering. They have all these other things to think about, and you need groups to pull them together and say, hey, we're here to help.
It's still a journey. It's so hard because so many of the businesses had COVID loans already, And so we're still working, and we're still working with the SBA. But we truly appreciate how you and your team put together for Kukua for Maui in the month of November. Some of the most endearing stories I heard that people were really surprised by, those who were directly impacted by the wildfires, is the love that as they went from island to island, the love that was shared with them and the care that was shared with them as part of that program. And the offer to say, hey, come back. You can be part of our festival in the future, too, if you're interested, Come back and visit us on Kauai and Big Island and Oahu. And so that was really endearing to them, too.
Yeah.
And, of course,
once in a while I run into some of the vendors, and they tell me, hey, you know what, we found a storefront. And I just feel so, it's so heartwarming. And it feels like there's so much hope that, people are getting back on their feet. And, it's very, even if it's slow, all these little stories of hope and inspiration just kind of help to uplift the next pathway.
Yes. And they are getting back, and it's very exciting. And last year we saw, even though the visitor count was down for our Made in Maui County Festival in November, we saw tremendous participation, and sales were the highest ever for our vendors. And I know this November 1st and 2nd we'll be doing it again, and that outpouring and that love is still there. I mean, people are still coming out in full force and wanting to support our local manufacturers. And for many of those Lahaina businesses, some of them have brick and mortar. Others have rebuilt their stock and are selling online, and they'll be at the festival as well. And yeah, there's so much gratitude here for everything that was done by the business community to say, we so appreciate every effort to rally around them. And you were such a big part of that and getting that ball rolling in your team, and it was tremendous.
Thank you again to you and your team. You guys work really hard.
Oh, it was our great pleasure. And one of the other things that I'm so excited about is, and this is something I know very near and dear to your heart, is, you've got a story of how a teacher really helped transform your life. And I've been watching as you've been working really hard to not only increase the number of teachers in Hawaii, but also the number of pre-K classrooms. But can you start by telling us a little bit about what you've been doing to help get more teachers here and the role that housing plays in this? And then talk to us a little bit about this historic number of pre-K classrooms opening just this month.
Yeah, so thanks to the efforts of Department of Labor and also the Teacher Standard Board, they have received close to $5 million in grant from the federal government. And this is what's known as a Teacher Apprentice Program. So this Teacher Apprentice Program will not only pay your tuition, but pay other wraparound services, including childcare, transportation, whatever else you need, to encourage people to go into the area of teaching. And this is really exciting. In addition to that, they will provide mentors for teachers. The sad news is that in the first 5 years, or the first 6 years, about 50% of teachers going into the field just resign for different reasons, just because they didn't like what they were doing, and it didn't turn out to be what they thought. But it's because, we're not providing enough support and kind of peer support. So this mentorship program, it's a national best practices. And what they found is with mentorship, you will be able to retain and retrain a lot of the teachers who are coming into the field. So that's an exciting part. The other thing is, if you want to go into both early education and teaching, thanks to the legislature and thanks to the sponsorship of Kamehameha Schools, both Chaminade and the University of Hawaii will provide tuition waivers or complete tuition vouchers for individuals wanting to enter this field. So there's a lot of kind of exciting movement towards teacher recruitment and teacher pathway. And this is something that is really needed because as we aggressively push in opening more and more preschool, we don't want to add to more teacher shortage. So as much as we want to open as many as we can, we are very intentional about it only because we want to be able to fill the classrooms with teachers. This year, we have a record number of preschools opening. We launched the Ready KK initiative last year, and we were successful in opening 13. And this year, we're opening 44. And I think in state government, that's what people want to hear. If you promise you're going to do something, then you better do something. And this is something that I committed to doing. And so, if I'm going to say, hey, we're going to open preschool, I better be able to open as many preschool as we can. And even for me, I just feel so grateful of the partnership that we form. And when have you heard where you announce something and it's done in a year, and the next year we end up doing 44 more? And this is statewide. If you have kids, 3 and 4-year-olds, and still looking for this is free preschool in your neighborhood, go to readykk.org and you can search where the preschools will be opening. There are bunched on Maui. We know one in Kihei, of course, in Hana. We're also opening in Nahi'ena'ena, which will service the Lahaina folks. And then, of course, in Lanai and Moloka'i as well. And so we are already working, and these are open already because school began, and we're already working on the next cohort of preschools to open next year. So we're very excited about this.
Well, I want to say for those who maybe haven't had the chance to get to know you as much as I have, I have always been impressed with what you just said, which is your attitude has always been, if government comes out and if the legislature comes out and makes a promise, or elected official comes out and makes a promise, then they better well fulfill the promise. And you have done that so quickly. We always hear, everything runs slow in government. Oh, there's a shortage here and a shortage there. And of course, businesses deal with great shortages too. But you have proven through your collaboration and the partnership and just your steadfast doggedness that we've said we're going to do this, we're going to make it happen. And you do. And that's what a real...
It's really about, it's really about partnership and, getting, drilling down on what is needed, how you can envision things outside the four corners of government, and how do you do it fast, and how do you do it cost effective. And it's not just the number of preschool, the part that I'm most proud of, and I know you will appreciate this as well. Initially, per classroom, the estimated cost per classroom was ranging anywhere from $1 to $2 million. We were able to bring down that cost at an average of $400,000 or less.
But that's amazing. And that's financed here for all those years. I still appreciate your view on that because, and this is some of the things that we're working on right now is just in general on Maui, but also, of course, recovering from the wildfires and with a lot of funds that are going to go towards other things and the losses and challenges we face, is we have to look at the solutions holistically and look at what we're spending on one solution compared to another. Yeah,
and we have to look at, just making sure that we have funds in the future and, taking care of our future needs as well.
Yeah, so important. Well, it's always a great pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so very much for joining us today. You mentioned you're coming to Maui before the show, so Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke is on her way here, and we just appreciate all that you have been doing not only as Lieutenant Governor, but all that you've been doing for the people and state of Hawaii and for those of us here on Maui and those directly impacted by the wildfires. I know that you've been working so hard during this time because that's who you are, a great community builder and trying to help everybody get whole as quickly as possible and moving positively forward. So thank you for your tremendous effort.
No, mahalo. Mahalo for having me on this show. Aloha.
Thank you. It's our great pleasure. Aloha. Oh, I'm always inspired by Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke, and you can see she is a woman who, when she does that we're going to work in this area and make great strides and make a difference, she absolutely does. As Gary reaches out to Bob Fenton to get him on the show, just wanted to let you know that we have a business after hours. That's the Chamber's networking events that we do. Pre-COVID, we used to do them every month. And after COVID, we're sort of doing them every other month based on what makes sense for people. But we're always ready to ramp up and do monthly again when we see more people interested in getting back to that regular schedule. But this is going to be an exciting event. Business After Hours is going to be hosted by Stone Source Hawaii in West Maui, and it will be on August 22nd from 5 to 7 p.m. So if you are a business that is never been a chamber member but curious about what the chamber does, you can be invited by a chamber member or call our office at 244-0081. Look us up online, mauichamber.com. We're easy to find. We'd love to introduce you to the chamber. And Business After Hours networking is just a fun social event where we get to connect with each other in a time where share a little food, share some beverages, but just get to meet each other and see how we can work together and collaborate and help each other. So we hope you can join us. If you're interested in a business that might want to participate in that, again, call us at the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And Gary, do we have Bob on the line?
No, we don't, Pam. The number that was given to me is a phone tree for FEMA. It's not his direct line.
Ah, okay. Let me work on that for a quick minute, and maybe if we can go to a quick commercial break.
You bet. Hang on. Volunteers who want to help keep trash and debris out of Maui streams and surrounding ocean water are encouraged to participate in a new Adopt a Street pilot program that was launched recently by the County of Maui Department of Public Works. The program will plan cleanup events and provide cleanup supplies for adopted streets with the assistance of volunteers. Clearing streets and gutters will prevent litter and debris from traveling to the ocean through the storm drainage system and other pathways. For more information, visit mauicounty.gov/stormwater.
Aloha, Maui. Do you know about Common Ground Collective? My heroes.
We are a Maui nonprofit dedicated to food security, education, and growing a more sustainable future.
Yes, these Earth Angels connect your extra food to the markets. And since the fires, they've been working overtime to nourish families and support farmers as the community heals and rebuilds.
Our relief efforts include hub support, food boxes with fresh local produce, and coordination of emergency feeding for long-term recovery. And our community still really needs support.
Visit commongroundcollective.com today to support their vital work.
The Friends of Haleakala National Park is looking for enthusiastic and fit volunteers for a strenuous 2-night backpacking service trip into Haleakala National Park's wilderness areas, August 14th through the 16th. Volunteers will hike into the crater and stay in the Kapala'oa Wilderness Cabin. Anticipated work may include removing invasive plant species to protect native plants and nene habitat. For more information and to register, go to fhnp.org and click on Service Trips.
We're back, Pam.
Awesome. Do we have Bob on?
No, not yet. Did you...
Not yet. Okay. We're trying to get a number for Bob, so we'll
I'm going to try that phone tree.
To reach out to him and see if we get a number there and can get him to call in. But Bob Fenton is currently the director, the regional administrator for FEMA Region 9, which includes Hawaii, with nearly 50 million people in his area. And, of course, many of us have seen Bob during his great service and tremendous service. He happened to be within Hawaii when the wildfires broke out, and we saw him and got to meet him early on with Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke. So we are hoping that he's going to be able to join us today as we continue to talk about, what we've learned 1 year after. And he is known for being one of the nation's most experienced and effective emergency management leader, and has served twice as administrator of FEMA and led multiple challenging prevention efforts, so as well as response and recovery operations throughout his long career, and very distinguished individual in the disaster area. And it's been interesting to get to know some of the FEMA team as we've gotten to know Bob, and we've worked with he and his team, and he again has brought in many people who have come and served during this effort, that a lot of them continue to serve together, which is amazing, because they go from one major disaster to another. And so it is something that they have often a long history. When we went out to Lahaina to do a tour, and FEMA took us on a tour of the burn area, well, one, I was so impressed that they told us many cultural leaders really helped them, that our cultural leaders in Kapuna have been teaching many of the people on the front line the stories of Lahaina. And through that, they've been creating a booklet. So as they are even sharing with those of us who live here, they are so proud to share the stories and educate all who come by about the important historic area of Lahaina. And so that's been really wonderful to see how they've been doing that. And it's been interesting to see how many of them serve over the years from one disaster to another across the nation. So each of the FEMA folks that I got to meet all had many years of FEMA disaster experience. They are, it's their passion, really, to serve across the country, to be on the front line, to jump in and help, during these times when there's so much to kind of bring together. And I know, there were also great stories of how they're used to kind of coming in when people are still scrambling, but that was not the case here. That when FEMA came in to Maui, there was so much self and group organization in the different areas where the community had already come out in force, and in Lahaina, different hubs were being formed and stations were being formed, and it was all the evacuation centers were open quickly, and we had a lot of food, as we mentioned earlier, and things were just happening so quickly that when they were coming out to sort of gear everything up and step out, they were already encountering great public service folks who were coming out and helping. So they had a lot to draw from, and of course they then brought a lot of expertise as well. So we're hoping to get Bob on. I think we're finding that the number for us to call is going to a different number. We're getting word that he was also given the station number to call in if there were difficulties as well. So we're hoping he may call in, Gary.
Okay, I'm standing by.
You're standing by. Me too. as I'm getting text.
Looks like we got him on the line.
Hey, this is
Okay,
Bob.
I have a different number, Gary, that I'm going to try and
We
send
have him on the line. We have Bob on the line.
Oh, good. We have Bob on the line. Fantastic. Aloha, Bob. How are you?
Aloha, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for joining the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Glad to be on. Just a tremendous week of activities in Maui, for the 1 year anniversary, and glad to be on today to talk to you guys.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, we were just talking about you and your amazing team and how you've served in many disasters and it brought so much experience, as I learned from your team visiting the burned area, how they've also been embracing our culture and learning and sharing that as they've taken people around to help them understand what's been going on. And now we're 1 year, just had that 1 year anniversary. What were some of the things that, were very different from some of the other wildfires that you've done? And what are some of the things that you felt worked really well, and maybe some of the things that we would look to do differently, if any, in other arenas or moving forward from here?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. So let me first start off with it's really been a priority of the Biden-Harris administration to ensure that the robust federal response, not just FEMA, but the federal interagency response, continues not only through initial recovery, but toward long-term recovery. And, over the last year, we have been focused on not only doing things that we typically do after fires to assist individuals with temporary housing or remove debris or remove hazardous materials, even help the county with search and searching for individuals missing and identification of individuals. All those things that we typically do, but I think the difference is in Maui, there's a lot more complexities. It's a multicultural population that was affected. I think the ability to listen to the community, the ability to bring together the federal, state, and local government in a unified effort to support, and I think a lot of credit to that goes to the mayor and governor in leading that effort. And then it allowed us to bring multiple resources and tools. And I think what we did best is we thought outside the box and leveraged our authorities to the greatest extent possible to help many unique situations that existed in Maui that maybe we don't see in the mainland.
And can you give us a couple of examples of? I mean, you mentioned that, and of course, this was a plantation town, so a big multicultural environment in Lahaina in that area as well. But what were some of the things that were unique that you saw here that you don't typically see on the mainland?
Well, I think just the multi-generational households and the number of individuals that, multi-generation that may be living in one household. I think that was unique for us, and we don't typically see that in the mainland. Also, I think that we ran into significant complexities for the first time ever with regard to all the batteries and power walls being used in the electric cars and the significant number of those. And the EPA established new procedures and processes for removing those hazards. We also saw, very unique, multicultural different parts of the population, where the Hawaiian, with the Filipino part of the population, or even the Micronesian part of the population, and really stretched us to pull in translators to help with each part, and then how to reach out and communicate to them effectively. Also, was a challenge. And so we constantly worked through the community, whether it's through faith-based organizations, elected leaders, to help us, ensure that we were reaching out to everyone.
Yeah. I think that it is a very unique community. And I know one time you mentioned to me, too, that you're really used to, when you go into a state, really used to just working with the governor. But, as an island state, you were working with both the governor and the mayor.
Yeah, and I think, primarily because the fire was in one county, and many times in the mainland, fires go across county boundaries, even city boundaries. And so you had a fire in one county that had a mayor there, even though there was multiple fires. It allowed us to, focus in on that one area. But, significant difference between Lahaina and Kula and Upcountry, where the other fire was, and just having to adapt our programs to each community to make sure that we're responsive to the needs.
Yeah, it was a very different experience for you and your team, and you folks have done an amazing job. Where are we to, one of the big things that you and your team have come to a listening session with us at the Chamber on housing, and housing in the county council, everybody's continuing to say top priority for us. How are we doing on housing? Can you give us a housing update?
Yeah, I think we're, in a good place 1 year after the fires. Obviously, a horrific event where thousands of people lost their household. we're in a situation where everyone initially after the fire was put into shelter through the hotels. We've now transitioned all those people into through our direct lease program into some type of temporary housing. We are building out, and there's over 1,200 people right now in direct lease that are in condos or apartments, with the majority of those being rented on the west side. We are also building out the Kilohana site with 169 units. The state is building out a site adjacent to us with 450 units on it. And then what we've done is for primary homeowners that have not been able to utilize their insurance, that still have housing needs, we are in the process of working with them to put units on their property so that they can rebuild and still live there. And that will be about 60 units. In addition to that, we are working to reach out to secondary homeowners that have lost their house to see if they're interested, until they rebuild, if they want to lease their lot to us so that we could put temporary units on those lots. So we're doing everything we can to not only provide safe, stable housing to individuals now in the short term, but also recognize that because of Maui's complex housing market and limited affordable rentals, and the majority of those impacted from the fire, about 90% were renters, that it will take time for them to re-enter the rental market. And so we need to provide not only short-term solutions like the direct lease, but also some longer-term solutions, as it may take as many as 5 or 6 years to rebuild and for people to re-enter the rental market.
Yeah. You're right. It's very complex. It's been a challenge, and we've got a lot of building to do. So that's really important to talk about. Are there any new programs that you feel are being administered now that have come about as a result of the wildfires, or programs that, looking forward, we need to be putting in place?
Well, one of the big things looking forward is that we learn from the fires and what happened at each fire, and that when we rebuild with mitigating so that we have resiliency in the area. And so FEMA takes about 15% of the funding that we provide in disasters and put it aside in a pot for mitigation that then allows projects to be formulated to help harden or build resiliency. And so there's over $350 million that will be set aside. I'm sure that will continue to grow. And those are projects that we can do to, improve the resiliency of Maui, and to hopefully prevent, events like this from happening before. So whether that's fuels management or hardening the types of structures so they're fire resistant in the future. Also, I think, got to look at the watersheds and look at the non-indigenous plants and trees and figure out how to remove those, especially those that are fire prone. So a lot of opportunity, looking forward into things that we can work together on to improve the resiliency of Maui.
Thank you. I think that's tremendous and really important. And it sounds like that's also the money that could be used. The big thing I keep also hearing about is we need to start greening the hillside. Is that money that could be used for that kind of resiliency as well?
I'm sorry, we need to start doing what, the hillside?
Greening.
Oh, yeah. So I think, removing non-indigenous grasses, some of the trees, and I think also looking at the watershed and how to, if there's things that can be done to increase the water. There's also a number of other federal agencies that, with congressional support for the supplemental that the administration has requested, have other programs that can help with watersheds in the hillside. So things like National Resource and Conservation Service, USDA's program, HUD's programs that they build for low-income housing and infrastructure, and the Corps of Engineers and EPA have a number of programs that will really be important. One of the things we're doing right now is, as we replace or put in a sewer line for the Kilohana site, we're removing a number of houses on that street that we're putting that sewer line in off of septic systems onto the sewer system. And so things that we could do like that to take advantage of the opportunity and improve the situation to prevent impacts, to that watershed or to the shoreline from, what was previously there, and improve the infrastructure are opportunities we're taking advantage of during the rebuilding.
That's tremendous. It's I'm just asking, but I don't know really where it's at, but I've heard a few people mention it. The extension of the bypass, is that something that you folks are looking at?
Well, we don't necessarily in FEMA have a program. I know that Department of Transportation has been working with State Department of Transportation and may have funds to support that. I know that the state has discussed the project, and I know that there's interest in the bypass and some discussion happening in that area. But typically, our projects are projects that were either damaged in the event, or projects where we want to mitigate, harden, increase resiliency for a publicly sponsored project that already exists. But it's not to say that, Department of Transportation and even Department of Energy, who's already provided some funding to underground power systems and those kind of things, may have additional funds based on the supplemental to assist and do some of those, help with some of those systemic issues that have existed for some time.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And I'd also heard that, that with some of that build out, we might be able to also extend other water lines, which might help bring some more water into the area. So that was kind of an interesting side thing I had heard, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. I know you've been working really... Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, and even being able to use, gray water more effectively. So, the use of gray water, for example, to use for watering of golf courses or other non-potable water needs, and then be able to save the drinking water for really drinking needs. And so I think there's an opportunity to do that and look at those kind of things as we look into the future.
Yeah, thank you. And that's an excellent point. And we appreciate that you are looking at those kinds of things, because that is something that we could make great strides in, I think, early on with this kind of investment, which would be tremendous. And I don't want to lose sight of the amazing effort that you're trying to do to hire locally. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, FEMA's going to be there, all the way through the long-term recovery. And one of the things that we decided to do was to establish an office in Maui, knowing that we're going to be there delivering grants, rebuilding infrastructure for the next, probably 5 years plus. And so we advertised 129 positions to work in Maui and help with long-term recovery. And our focus is trying to hire locally so that we hire people that understand the cultures there, that are part of the community, who are best able to help the community during long-term recovery and be able to communicate and share where we're at in progress. So we just started the process this summer to advertise and starting the hiring right now, and you'll see a lot of positions coming on this fall.
Fantastic. Well, how can people learn more about those positions?
Well, we've done a lot of advertising. We'll send you some information on that, but USA Jobs is a great site to go to, and just put in Maui and search FEMA, and the jobs will come up that are being advertised right now. But we will also send your radio station some additional information.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much. Bob, It's always a great pleasure to have you on. Thank you for your time this morning. I know how crazy busy you are, and we just truly appreciate all the help that you and FEMA and the Biden-Harris administration have been putting forward, your coordination with our county, state, and all of our community members. We know that it's been a slightly different journey than what you're really used to, but you folks have jumped in full force to do everything you can to support us, and we truly appreciate all of your efforts.
1 minute.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's really been a team effort, as you said, not only all levels of government, but just having those affected by the fire participate in the discussions. So it's really a community-led effort to rebuild Maui, Lahaina, and Kula.
Well, thank you for all that you do and have a beautiful day. Aloha. And to all of our listening audience, wish you blessings and best wishes for a wonderful week. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you'll join us next week, Tuesday, but also we are available for rebroadcast on Friday afternoon from 12:05 to 12:58 right here on KAOI. Aloha.